Hello Math 1. We've got our third video for Chapter 5 underway. This is more of a piggyback off of 5.1 than it is for 5.2. 5.2 is just sort of an alternate strategy for using 5.1. I'm probably not going to reference that again. So, if you felt that 5.2 was super helpful and you want to keep using the table of values, you're just going to have to adjust on your own with how you make it work for these new types. All right, so jumping back to 5.1, y equals mx plus b was a really helpful way to express an equation because what it tells you is it tells you what the rise over run is from the m, also known as the slope, right? The b value tells you what the y-intercept is, which is your starting point on the y-axis. So what we want to do is we want to take these equations and rewrite them to look like y equals mx plus b. So for each of these, we need to be able to get y by itself. We want to make this look like y equals mx plus b. And the only way we can do that is through algebra manipulation. What I mean by that is, how do we get y by itself if there's an x over here and a negative 5 attached to it? Well, first thing I'm going to do is put a 1 in front of the x, just because it could get confusing later on if you don't have that number in front of x. And then I ask myself, I have a 1x on the left. How do I move that 1x to the right? Well, if you recall from the solving equations and inequalities chapter, doing the opposite operation moves it to the opposite side. So you're not going to necessarily be able to combine the 10 and the 1x, but you've successfully moved it to the other side. Because look, y equals mx plus b. Negative 5y equals mx plus b. We're really close now to actually having y totally by itself. How do we get y totally by itself? Well, since negative 5 is being multiplied by y, you undo that multiplication through division. So you're dividing every part of this equation, and now we're headed to the, remember the section in chapter 2 where we just isolated multivariable equations? Now you're applying that skill to this. If you divide the left-hand side by negative 5, you divide all parts of the right-hand side by negative 5. Yeah, if you've forgotten, you can go back and watch that video in chapter 2. I think it's like 2.14, maybe 2.13, one of those videos. At any rate, I don't think it's too complicated to see that, hey, if I divide the left-hand side by negative 5, it's going to be divided twice on the right. A negative divided by a negative is a positive 1/5 x. Positive 10 divided by negative 5 is negative 2. Okay, so that took a long time. It shouldn't take that long. I just needed to explain each step as thoroughly as I can. So, now that we've got this right here, we can identify the slope and the y-intercept. This is of the form y equals mx plus b, remember? So m is the slope, 1/5 in front of the x, that's the m. So m is equal to 1/5. That just means you go up 1, right 5. Up 1, right 5. It's also the same as negative 1 over negative 5. See where it came from? So you could go down 1, left 5. Down 1, left 5. And then the y-intercept would be the plus b. So plus b minus 2. b equals negative 2. So start at negative 2 on the y-axis. And again, I'm not going to mess with the table of values. You use your slope to go up 1, right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to plot my second point, down 1, left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to plot my third point. The points are far enough away to where you have an accurate measurement of a line, so I'm going to connect the dots there and be done with it. So the only new skill that I introduced is, can you now manipulate the equation to get y by itself? We want it to look exactly like this. Let's try it on number 2. So I'm going to rewrite it as 3y plus 1x, just to have a number in front of my x and a number in front of my y. I need to move the mx term to the right, so since it's plus right here, I use subtraction, opposite operation. Remember, solving equations chapter. 3y equals, and instead of writing it as 13 minus 1x, I think it'll make more sense to write it as negative 1x plus 13. So it looks just like that. The commutative property allows me to do that. All right. Then we divide all parts by 3. So negative 1 over 3, you can't reduce that fraction anymore. It's not negative 3. It's negative 1/3. And then 13 over 3, just figure what that is as a mixed number if it doesn't come out to be whole. So 3, 6, 9, 12. There's 4 of them. And 12 plus 1 would be 13, so it's 1/3 left over. All right. We have successfully got it into y equals mx plus b. Remember, by the way, this is slope-intercept form because it gives you the slope followed by the y-intercept. Keep that vocabulary term firmly planted in your brain. So then the slope is going to be negative 1/3 or 1 over negative 3. And then your y-intercept is going to be plus 4 and 1/3. So b is 4 1/3. So I'm starting 4 and 1/3 unit up on the y-axis. Up 1, 2, 3, 4, plus 1/3 of a unit. From there, we're going to go down 1, right 3. So down 1, right 1, 2, 3. Notice I'm still between grid spaces. All your points should be there. Down 1, right 1, 2, 3. Or up 1, left 1, 2, 3. Up 1, left 1, 2, 3. Connect your dots, and you are done. All right, so one more example. Why don't you guys pause the video and see if you can try it on your own? All right, let's see if you did it correctly. First things first, I need it to look like y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to actually rewrite this as 15y equals 5x. The property that allows me to just flip-flop the left and the right-hand sides is the symmetric property. I talked about that, I think, all the way back in chapter 2. Now, there's no plus b. The x is already on the right-hand side. But if there's no plus b, what do we do? Well, what is the mathematical equivalent to nothing? There's a number that represents nothing. It's 0. So just put a big plus 0 on there if you don't see a constant hanging around. All right. I am not going to add or subtract. I'm going to divide by 15. Because that's the only move that would get y by itself at this point. You can't subtract 15 in this case. All right, 5 divided by 15. The fraction reduces, so please do so. Reduce this down to 1 over 3. Since 5 divided by 15 They both divide 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 15 divided by 5 is 3. That's where I got the 1/3 from. If I have nothing and I divide it by groups into 15, there is nothing left for each group. So my y-intercept is the b, plus 0. That means I start right on the origin. My slope is positive 1/3, or -1 over -3, because going up and right yields the same rate of change as going down and left. Down and left. Up 1, right 3. Down 1, left 3. And we've got 5 solid points right here. All right, everybody, there it is. Hopefully you made sense of the whole idea of we're using Chapter 2 skills to make better sense of Chapter 5 graphing. Email me any questions you may have, and thanks for watching.